Well, hi there everybody. Insights Channel, Steve here again. And today I've got something very interesting for you. I thought today I would interview my wife, Lisa, about some very interesting experience she had 8 years ago when she first had what you could call a fatal accident in falling out the attic stairs and hitting her head on the top of the banister some 3 meters away from the fall. Very dangerous stuff. And as doctors tell you, one place you don't want to hit is the back of your head. Well, that's what she did. Unfortunately, she's been injured ever since. But she has quite some spiritual stories to tell you of some of those early days, what it was like being in bed, very ill, and being half here and half in the spirit world. Well, I want you to hear this interesting story. She talks about Jesus and beings that came to visit her.
Yeah. Okay, so I was lying in my bed. I wasn't sure if I was going to live or I was going to die, but I decided I was going to fight to stay alive. So in order to stay alive, I would sing songs like psalms and spiritual songs, and I would be praising the Lord because I know the Lord and I know that He's the only one that could save me from passing away. So then I suddenly saw Jesus standing in the doorway of my room, and with him were some young beings. I don't think they were from this realm. They were like students, and it was like they had come to watch me, to see what I was going to do. Knowing that I had just been through an experience with an angel coming to get me, and I had made the choice to stay. But he came to get me, to take me home to heaven, and he said so. Are you ready to come home to heaven with me? And I said, I don't think I can do that right now, because I need to be here to take care of my husband, because he is not so well. And my daughters have not grown up yet, so I have to stay. Then he said, that's okay. And then he actually looked a little sad, but then he left. And I was just lying there, baffled. What in the world was that? What was going on? So I had just been through that, and then a few days later, the thing happened with Jesus standing in the door, and there was this being there with him. She was not human. She had a bigger head than we do, round like a round balloon. So it was a bit bigger than us, but she had eyes and a nose and a mouth, and she was very sweet, and she had long hair that were parted in braids, one on each side, blonde hair. And she was very enthusiastic, and I really liked that. She reminded me of a very good friend I used to have when I was young, and she really wanted to come in to help me. And so did the other students that were there with Jesus. But he said, no, you're not allowed to do that. So he put out his arms, and they couldn't come into my room. Now, today we had a very interesting talk, Steve and I, about the possibility that there are other beings in other solar systems. And that's what I think these students were. They came in from other solar systems, and they were with Jesus wherever that he is, the heavenly city or wherever it is. It was like they were university students traveling university, and they had come to learn from me, from my situation.
Well, that's amazing. That's very, very interesting. And yes, I'd like to interject here. I'm working on a new book. I'm working on the second book of Enoch, which I'm finding absolutely fascinating, because I think we're only just starting to learn about creation. We're only just starting to learn how God did it, and how many beings He's created, and all the things God has done with everything He's created in the physical universe. Like today we're talking about, well, we know the earth is the center of creation, at least for the time being. But we often wonder, but why has God created millions, billions, trillions of stars and galaxies and endless other solar system worlds out there? What's it all for? Is it just for decoration, or just look out in the sky? Somehow I don't think so. We're convinced that there is a reason for all of God's creation. We know that the stars and the planets, as Enoch is saying in the second book of Enoch, how they affect us. In fact, Adam was created, affected by the stars and the moon and the planets, as it says in Genesis, made for signs and seasons. They affect us. We know that in studying these matters. But thinking more deeply, there's a lot more that's very interesting. You know, that science tries to tell us that there's probably aliens on other planets and stars out there. But I'm not so sure it's quite the way they like to scientifically interpret things. I think, yes, there probably are other kind of creatures, beings. But what's fascinating to me is what my wife saw that day when she was half here in the physical realm and half departing to the spirit world, and suddenly she sees Jesus standing in our door. I remember that happening, and her describing these other beings standing in the doorway. But what I find fascinating in the story is the fact that she's mentioning she saw some other kind of being that wasn't human. Neither was it angelic. A being taller than Jesus himself, being about a foot taller, having a bigger head than us, but like friendly, loving and kind and all the rest. And then we say, wait a minute, what if God has other realms? We talked about this today. What if He has other realms? Put it like this, in simple terms. It only took God 6 days to create our physical universe. So what's He been doing the other 2,369,020 days? What's God been doing all the time? Has He been creating other universes? Parallel universes? What's He been doing? So it is very possible that there exist other beings, maybe not in the same time sequence as us, or in this physical universe. I couldn't tell you. It's a very fascinating topic, but God could have infinite other worlds where there exist beings, don't look the same as us. Maybe they don't even have the same choice as we've had. We talked about that today too, how the earth is the center of the whole universe at the moment. Why? Because God put us here for a reason, because Lucifer fell before creation, and him and his angels got the boot. And from that point on, God didn't know who He could trust. So He had to create the physical realm in order to test people between good and evil. But we don't know if that same choice has ever been given to other beings. We don't know. The thing of choice seems to be much because of Lucifer falling, and because a third of the angels falling. And God didn't know how many of those in heaven would choose good or evil given the choice. Because if you know anything about God, He doesn't like force people to love Him. He doesn't like to force people to do what He says. He wants them to do it because, like a father with a child, the child finds out that Daddy's right in the end. He finds out is right. So I end up doing the right thing, not do the wrong thing. So that's why we have a world of choice here. But is it the same for all other creatures? Could be infinite other kinds of creatures. What's it like for them? Or are they all good? See, there's infinite questions on this one. But I found it absolutely fascinating that when my wife had a vision of Jesus coming, and about 5 people at her door, but they weren't all the kind of beings you would expect. They weren't just angels. It wasn't just Jesus. It wasn't like a saint or a human. It was some other being there too. That I find is very unusual. But I'm not surprised. I think God's creation is infinite and the possibilities are infinite. I thought I'd just let you know that amazing vision my wife had in the early days after her accident, about 8 years ago. Well, thanks for listening.